today we have a friend who I am excited to spend some time with. He started his career in the training program at CAA. He worked as an agent at David Shapira Agency and at Irv Schechter Agency before landing a job as an agent at Paradigm, where he spent 10 years before opening his own doors as a manager. He is the owner and president of Hess Entertainment, which has been in operation now for 10 years. He was Mark Ruffalo's and Michael Cera's first agent. He's represented Penelope Ann Miller, Katie Holmes, Rachel Dratch, and so many more. Please welcome Jim Hess.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you got it. So I love that we have you today because you have a lot of insight as both an agent and as a manager. Tell us what the difference is between the two.
I get that question asked a lot. And I'd say the first thing is an agent's primarily responsible for getting auditions and getting opportunities for clients, for actors, and getting them, basically auditions for roles.
Okay.
A manager has a much deeper relationship with their clients. So I like, for me, myself now, I'm glad that I was an agent for, over 20 years, and which allowed me the education and experience so I could become a manager to the way I wanted to manage, which is sort of have the ability to do everything and anything for my clients. So whether they need an agent, whether they need a publicist, a business manager, a new car, where are they going to live, if they have to get a visa, if they're like from a foreign country and they want to work in America, you name it. Now I've got the ability to do that, and that's what I do for my clients. However, also as an agent, you're sort of working within a company. So you're working for, there's like an army of individuals, if you will, and the clients could have, an agency may have 200 to 500 clients, whereas a manager, it's kind of whoever you want to represent or how many you want to represent. But in my case, I've chosen to really embrace the fact that I'm a personal manager, and I've kept my list very, very small by choice. And I've only got about 14 or 15 clients. I want to represent people that I'm happy with, and it's a good relationship. I don't have, contracts with any of my clients. I kind of consider it like a marriage or a family. And whoever we work with, you kind of know when it's working, when it's not working. That being said, I also represent in areas that is my own personal interest. On the side, I've taken up poker as a hobby, and I represent some of the top poker players in the world as well, who, yes, they have interest in acting and getting on TV, but it allows me an opportunity to get into other areas that I want to work with. So I could get into sports, or I can get into the internet marketing, or I can get into, sort of whatever direction I want to go to. And that's kind of the way I want to do it personally.
Does an actor, for example, let's say an actor books a role or is up for a role or wants to do a job, do they consult with you about that to help them make a decision if this is a good move for them? Is that
absolutely? Absolutely. And we discuss that kind of from A to Z. So when the audition comes in, we'll discuss it. We'll say, is this a really good role? I'll read the script. They'll read the script. We'll discuss the role to see, is this really going to elongate your career? Because one of the big questions that I always have with my clients is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 20 years? And is this role going to help you get to that, where you're going in your career roadmap, if you will? Mm-hmm. So as an example, one of my clients that I represent right now, and I've represented her now for, about 11 years, is Megan Rath, who I've had since she, it's kind of a funny story. She was on Nickelodeon when I first saw her on a little show called The Assistants. And there was 4 actors on that show. Megan was one of them, and another one was an actor that many of your people may have heard of named Michael B. Jordan. And I started representing her then, and was able to first put her on a show called Being Human, which is on the Sci-Fi Network. And then from there, we kind of went on and on, picking and choosing which roles were right. And then eventually she just finished a 3-year stint on Hawaii Five-0 for CBS, and is currently waiting pickup on a pilot. Well, the pilot's been picked up, there's a show called Jury Duty that hopefully will be seen on CBS as well, which now she's the lead of the series. Her younger brother, Jesse, I also represent, and he saw what I was doing for his older sister, and he's also Canadian, and I brought him to America and immediately put him on a couple of shows for CBS, and then introduced him to the executives at the CW network, and he's currently plays the role of Brainiac on Supergirl.
So how is there a lot of overlap between, like, as a manager, do you ever submit your talent to like breakdowns or for auditions, or is that exclusively the role of the agent?
I wouldn't say it's exclusive. The answer is yes, I do submit for those roles, but I lean heavily on the agents for for them to submit and get the auditions, because I'm kind of busy doing a lot of other things with my clients. But that being said, I do submit on a daily basis, and there's many times there's an overlap. But also because of my relationship with my clients, there's many times that I will already have the relationships with studio executives or casting directors or what have you, and I'll kind of take the lead with the agent. I'm a big believer of working as a team. So I don't really have an ego. If I get the appointment, or if the agent gets the appointment, it really doesn't matter, because in the big picture, when everything's working, everyone's kind of doing their job,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very noticeable to the client as well.
So you're now, do you help actors get agents, or do they usually already have an agent when they come to you?
It depends on where they are in their career, but yes, I help actors get agents.
Mm-hmm.
Megan and Jesse, as examples, never had any agents out here, and I situated that. And at the same time, whether a client is in the middle of their career or later in their career, yes, I also try to get another partner to add to the team who
Mm-hmm.
is the right fit.
So you don't usually just manage a talent without them also having an agent. Usually there's both.
I think it just depends on the situation of the individual. I mean, I've got clients right now that don't have agents, and I have clients that have agents and me as a manager, and I have clients that have agents and managers and business managers and a publicist and what have you. So it depends on sort of like where they are in their career and what's needed. And then we discuss that. But I would say the best way to describe what I do as a manager right now is I would be like, if you were to consider, you, Debbie Sheridan, as a corporation, I would be the CEO of your corporation. So yes, you make the ultimate decision, but I'm right there and we're discussing what's the right move to make and where do we go and what should we do.
Interesting. So if there's a new actor sort of starting out, doesn't have an agent, maybe not even that many credits, do they need a manager, number one? And then number two, is if they were to go after getting a manager, would that be the first step, or are they doing that backwards?
I always compare representation in the early stages of one's career in a way like dating. Like when girls are looking for guys or guys are looking for girls, it's very much about who's interested in who. So when actors come out and they say, and they're young and they go, oh, I need to get an agent. My feeling is have the agent come after you, not you after the agent. Because once you get that relationship starting, and if you were the one saying, I need this agent, and then you beg and plead for the person to represent you, and they do, and then 3 months later, there's not really getting any auditions, usually that's because you were the one saying, please, please, please represent me. And they didn't really necessarily have a genuine interest, or if they did have the interest, it was because they were interested in your perseverance, but not necessarily in your talent or what they've seen. So for me personally, I'm always looking for performance. So if somebody comes to me and they say, listen, I don't really have a whole lot of credits or whatever, my response usually is, well, let me see your reel of what you do have. Is there a play or a local theater that you're going to be in, so I can actually see your performance, so I can judge whether or not I think I can help and be a key ingredient in benefiting you, and go from there. But if somebody comes in and says, gee, you know what, I'm really, really good, I want you to represent me. Well, how am I supposed to sell that person or pitch that person to an agency or casting people or what have you if there's nothing for me to sort of begin with. So a lot of times I have a lot of Canadian clients, and for me, the good news is a lot of the Canadian clients will have a lot of episodic material behind them or television work behind them that hasn't been seen in the United States, but they've already done 50 episodes, and I can say, hey, look at all this material, and I can edit it and put it together and say, here's like a little reel I can put together of how good they are, and then go from there. But when somebody is at their beginning stages, I really need to see performance. And I think
Okay.
anybody that's worth their salt as a representative needs to see a performance rather than just kind of taking it on a
Mhm.
lark.
Now, do you ever have anybody just audition for you, like in your office? Like, do?
I've done that, but
Mhm.
I don't really feel like that works. And the reason I don't think that that works is mainly because it's not genuine. I don't know if that person has practiced their monologue for the last 2 months and has it perfect and knows exactly when they're going to cry and when emotionally they're going to do this, or if they're going to come in and yell and scream in my office, which I've had. It's just not genuine. And it's not authentic. And I'm
Yeah.
always looking for authenticity.
Let me ask you a few couple of questions about your time as an agent. Do you and or agents in general go out to shows to find talent? Do you usually find them because they've sent you an email and they looked interesting? Where do you get your clients from as an agent?
As an agent, when I was an agent, I was very, very interested in the comedy side of the business. Therefore, I was at the improv literally on a nightly basis to where I knew every worker there, everyone that was there every single day,
Wow.
ate my dinners there like at 9:30 at night, saw every show, would walk in and see every comic and know everybody. And I was doing my job and I knew who was up and coming and who was going to be good. And that sort of got me into um, a bigger world of representing a lot of people on Saturday Night Live. I think I represented someone, at least one cast member on Saturday Night Live for about 13 or 14 straight years. And that was great for me because that was my interest. And I loved going out to New York and representing, I represented Tim Meadows and Rachel Dratch and so on and so forth. But it was just fun. And the reason I did that was because I saw Rachel Dratch when she was with in Chicago, a show called Dratch and Faye, Tina Fey, her best friend.
Okay.
And from there, they kind of got on to Saturday Night Live. So, yes, that being said, as an agent, I was out and about at all times, constantly. And I would definitely say being an agent is a young person's game because when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're out every night if you're doing your job correctly, and you're pounding the streets and trying to find that new client. Which goes back to what I'd said before, which is seeing performance. I wanted to see performance, so whether I saw Adam Sandler at the Improv or David Spade at the Improv, I knew who was good, and versus them just saying, "Hey, would you represent me?"
So when you saw these people and you liked them and they were good and they're up and coming, um, did you just approach them when the show was over and
Yes.
just say, "Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Jim Hess. I'm an agent." Yeah.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've got a fun story to where way back in the day, the first 90210, which maybe some of your clients are going to not even know which one that is, but it just
Okay.
reappeared last summer.
Right.
Um, I represented Gabrielle Carteris, who's now the president of SAG, and I still
Right.
represent her. And literally walked up to her, like got on the set, went to the trailer, and introduced myself, and started a relationship that way. And I know not many people have done that before, but I just was bold and figured, something. She didn't have anybody in LA, and I wanted to get out there, and I've formed a relationship with her. I've known her for the last, 25 years or so. It's been great.
Where was that you approached her?
On the set of 90210.
Oh,
She
she
didn't
was
have an
already
agent at the time.
working and oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And I just went
I
on the
see.
set and walked right up, knocked on her trailer door and introduced myself.
No,
Yeah.
she must have appreciated that. I mean, if she didn't
I
have an
think,
agent, she was like, "Oh, this is fantastic. I need one
yeah.
of these." Right?
I guess I was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, so that's great for people who are performing, who are at the comedy clubs or doing improv or in plays. What about right now, when we don't We aren't doing those sorts of things.
Well, it's
People are
funny that you say that.
Mhm.
You asked that question, and there's a lot of graduates, there's a lot of colleges and universities right now that have their showcases, and I've been looking and watching all of those showcases online, and seeing if there's anybody that sparks my interest. Um,
Ah,
and that's sort of, I mean, it is limiting right now, but that's what I've been doing personally.
okay. Do you get a lot of submissions? Let's just ask that, through like email.
I used
Do
to
you?
get a lot more submissions when I was an agent, obviously because I was at a big agency and there was a lot of people inquiring. Um, some straightforward and some very creative. But again, I wouldn't necessarily uh, suggest people constantly send out blind emails and blind letters to agents, just because, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. What are you gaining from that? Because they're not really seeing your performance. They're looking at a picture. So if anything, send email or send something saying, hey, I'm performing at the Hudson Theater on Santa Monica from July the 15th to the 30th, please come see me, and follow up with a phone call or an email from there. And that's going to be more beneficial than just sending a headshot
Mm.
with nothing else.
So the best piece of advice that you can give, it sounds like, is that people need to be practicing their craft. Uh,
Well, it's like, when I was younger, I heard this, and it's true to this day. Actors act, writers write, agents represent, or managers represent. So do what you're good at. But those who act should be out there acting, and it should be getting in front of a camera or on stage. And those who write should be writing. I mean, I've got friends that are writers, and they've got 100 scripts that they've written. Maybe 99 of them have never been, but trust me, as soon as something clicks, the next question somebody asks them is, "What else do you have?" And they can just go to their library and kind of do
right.
it. Just like in acting. Gee, what else have you done? Oh, well, hold on. Here's my reel when I was doing this or when I was doing that.
Hmm.
So it gives you a good example of your work, your previous work.
So let's take this to the next step. So somebody's gotten your attention. Um, then what happens?
It's a pretty quick and simple process. I mean, I'll meet with them face to face, and if it seems like there's a good connection, and I feel like I can really be an added ingredient and added value to their career, then I'll express my interest. And if the feeling is mutual, then we'll start working together. From there, my next step would be introducing them to um, wherever they're going to be. So, as an example, if somebody's fairly new and they want to get into television, I would most likely send them to a lot of casting people that I know, or studio executive casting folks like the Don Steinbergs at Sony, or a Jonathan Blumen at ABC, or a Brian Dorfman at NBC, or what have you, um, and get them sort of introduced so people can start to have them on their radar. So when the submissions come in, I can say, hey, remember so and so that you met 2-3 months ago?
Oh,
Here's what they just did. You should check it out. Oh, or um, hey, Lori Openin at the CW. I see that there's a new female villain in Supergirl coming up. You should consider blah blah blah, because she'd be really good because she's got that ability. And if you can, can I get the sides or the materials for that? And I'll send it to you. And then she'll take it and send it to the casting director that she hired. And I'm kind of skipping a step of getting it over the casting director, but you know, she's into it and she already knows the person. And now that she's represented them, that transpires. As an example of that, that's exactly how Jesse Rath got Supergirl. It wasn't even, he didn't audition for it. They just offered it to him, because originally I had him come out. The people, the executives at the CW loved him. They immediately put him on a show called No Tomorrow, which lasted for a season. And when that got canceled, they called me, because of the relationship that we had, called me specifically and said, we want to put him on Supergirl as this role. And that's sort of how it worked. And a lot of people say, wow, why didn't I get to audition for that role? Because somebody was a step ahead and getting them in the door before there was even a process to audition for those roles.
that is so interesting how Hollywood works. It's fascinating. But
It's an
that's just
insight.
it is an insight. But it's also interesting that it's how important relationships are. And I didn't realize when you said, oh, I get them into like Jonathan Blumen at ABC or whoever, when you say that, what you're meaning is that you're setting up just like a face-to-face, like a meeting. They're not going into audition for anything specific. It's just a
It
general.
depends. Yeah, it depends on the situation. But it is very true about the relationships. I mean, when I was an agent at Paradigm, Jonathan Blumen was an agent at Paradigm. And now our careers have changed and I'm a manager and now he's a casting executive at ABC, yet we still speak on a weekly basis
Yeah.
and are very close friends. And he trusts me because he knows what my eye for talent is. And I trust him because I know what he's going to tell me the truth of certain things. And it's sort of how it works.
So if someone's going to go into Paradigm, for example, it's a large agency, right? Lots of agents and lots of talent are represented by Paradigm, more than just actors, I think, right?
Yes, they have writers. They're very, very heavily weighted in the music industry as well.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that. So if an actor goes in to meet with an agent to possibly be represented by them, do they meet with just that one agent, or do they have to meet with several agents to get the seal of approval to be represented by them?
It depends on the agency. Most likely you're going to meet with a team of agents within the agency. But the one thing that I always recommend to clients that are going to want to get into an agency, I hear all the time, oh, I want to get into CA. I want to go to Gersh. I want to go to Paradigm. I want to be at ICM. It's not the name of the agency. It's the agent within that agency. So as an example, if you were to go with, you know, senior agent so-and-so at ICM versus someone that's your friend who is a young agent at ICM, well, does that young agent, when they have their meeting during the day and they're going over the grid of all the movies and all the TV shows, and they're saying, please represent my client John Doe, or not please represent, but please submit my client John Doe, are they being listened to in the room versus someone with more experience and more power in the room saying, get my client John Doe in, and you know that it's going to get done because it depends on who the agent is within the agency as well. So there's a lot of that game playing as well. It's interesting. True.
Right. So what can an actor expect when they go in to interview with an agent or manager?
Well, the agents are going to just want to get to know them a little bit better on a personal basis. Hopefully they've already seen their work. They're going to want to know what they want to do and what their goals and aspirations are. And quite honestly, as an actor interviewing agents, don't be afraid to ask them questions.
Right.
Don't be afraid at all to say, where do you perceive me? How many other people do you have in my category? If I were to come here, am I going to get attention, or do you have 5 other brunettes? How many girls do you have that are 20 to 25? Because that's my category. So those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you generally review someone's audition before it gets sent in?
All the time.
You do?
All the time. And I'll like my clients, they send it to me first. What do you think? So you've got to sort of, advise and say, okay, do it this way, do it that way. Or you know what? That take kind of sucked. I think you can do better. I've seen you do better in the past.
Yeah.
Work on it some more and do it again. Nobody appreciates anything more than just honesty. And
right.
I tell my clients all the time, I'm always honest. Unfortunately, sometimes it might come out wrong, but it's from a good place. And it's just me being honest, saying, like I said, you know what, that sucked. Do it again. People don't want to hear it, but then they realize, you know what, I didn't really put all my effort into it. I just kind of winged it and put it together and hoped it happened. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work that way. It's just never going to work that way.
So what is a typical day for you as a manager? When we're maybe not in COVID-19, pandemic. I know things are slowed down.
It's dog park.
Yeah, but when you're working.
It's interesting. Because I have a smaller client list, I did it specifically so I don't really have every day is the same. My day starts whenever it starts. I mean, I have clients kind of all over the world, and wherever they are, whenever they need me, I always say, look at my cell phone. If call me whenever. if I'm sleeping, I won't answer it, but otherwise I'll answer it. So, I was on a call at 7 a.m. this morning, and I was on calls with clients over the weekend. It really doesn't matter. I don't really have a specific day. I'm just always kind of on the lookout and trying to see what opportunities I can find for my clients. Now,
I'm interested to know also sort of a day in the life of an agent, because I feel like there's a lot more there's a lot of moving pieces.
it depends on what day of the week it is, but if I remember correctly, I mean, you're right. I mean, the mornings are usually for submitting, but now submissions come in throughout the day, so that's changed over the last decade. But a lot of times it's also, they have staff meetings and going over what's happening in the agency and what clients are getting deals, who are they focusing on, or lunch meetings when they bring out the grid and we're going to go over all the movies for all the studios, and the next day it's all the independent movies, and the next day it's going to be all the TV projects out there, and then another day it might be all the TV movies out there. So there's a lot of constantly churning information to find out what's happening and getting updated on projects.
And what does that mean whenever you say you're looking at the grid and like these different projects? Does that mean that you find out sort of what's in development, or things that are in casting currently, or
both?
Okay.
I mean, there's projects in development, there's projects that are actively casting, and there's projects that are soon to be casting. So you kind of are always watching things grow, and as they move forward, from development to pre-production to casting to shooting.
How do you find out about what's in development?
You're dealing with your literary representatives, or you're talking to your casting people at the studios and the networks and finding out what's coming and what's around the corner, and you just kind of stay on top of it. I constantly, every few weeks, would check in. Okay, what's happening, just checking in. And then, hey, so and so would be really good for this role because I've already read the script, and is that a possibility? And then start kind of working around the executives from there, not waiting for a breakdown to come out, because a lot of times those leading roles are already taken.
So you're trying to get your actors in those leading roles pre-casting?
Of course, sure.
Did you enjoy your time as an agent?
Yeah, I loved it.
What was your favorite thing about being an agent?
I think I loved always being on the precipice of like the new hit shows. Like you knew when a show was going to be a hit, and you were trying to get your clients into it. And that's not so much different than as a manager as well. It's just fun because you have a much deeper relationship with your client. And I've got a client right now that's on a show, and I think it's going to be a big hit. And I know some of the key cast members on the pilot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it put together once they're able to shoot it, because I think it's going to be a fun watch for people to watch, people to see.
Can you tell us what that is?
You'll see it in about 6 months.
You're not going to give us that much insight, huh? I'm curious what you think the biggest mistakes are that actors make when they're trying to get representation.
Not being prepared and kind of winging it. Preparation's key. You want to know everything about the person you're going to be meeting with. You want to know you want to anticipate what they're going to ask you before you walk in the room. And that kind of shows who you are as a person, because if you walk in there and you're prepared and you know what questions to ask, and when they ask you a question, you just bam, 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 you know what to say. It's very impressive. And by the way, that goes for representatives as well. I'll tell you right now, I mean, if a young potential client comes to me, believe me that I've already checked out their Instagram, their Facebook, anything I can about them to see what their interests are, because when they come in, I want to be able to say, you know what, you like horseback riding, don't you? And they're like, wow, how do you know that? Because all of a sudden they're saying, wow, he really knows his stuff about me and is prepared, so they better be as well.
This is such great insight and information. And I so much appreciate you being here with me today, Jim. It was great chatting with you. Hopefully when we get up and running again and we're doing workshops all over the country because we can travel, maybe you'll come out with us and host one of our seminars. Or
Absolutely, I'd love to.
That would be great.
And you know what? It's fun because we've had a relationship for over 10 years now ourselves, and
Yeah.
it's been great working with each other and kind of following each other's paths. So
Yeah.
anytime I can help, I'd be more than happy to.
Oh, those are kind words. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. Yeah, you're the best, truly. Thank you so much for everything today, and we'll talk again soon.
And thanks for having me.
You got it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.